America at a crossroads, the legal and political battles defining Washington. Today, is USA nation in dispute with itself? Before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. You won't want to miss our deep dives into today's most explosive political stories. America finds itself at the intersection of law and politics, where every decision from the White House, every ruling from the courts, and every clash between state and federal authority reverberates far beyond Washington. Today's headlines tell a story of escalating disputes, the Trump administration dismissing the revived Epstein scandal as a hoax, a court blocking controversial deportations under a centuries-old law, legal fights over tariffs that could reshape global trade, and a lawsuit from the nation's capital itself challenging presidential power over the National Guard. Together, these cases highlight a deeper reality. The United States is in the midst of an ongoing struggle over the limits of executive authority, the independence of the judiciary, and the fragile balance of federal and state power. Let us look at each current dispute. First, the Epstein files and presidential legitimacy. Few scandals have cast as long a shadow over American politics as the Jeffrey Epstein case. With the Trump administration labeling the latest revelations a Democrat hoax, the controversy has moved beyond questions of personal misconduct into the realm of political weaponization. Recently recovered prison footage that contradicts earlier reports of missing evidence has reignited debate about accountability, transparency, and whether powerful individuals can ever truly be brought to justice. The stakes here are not only legal but existential. If the public comes to believe that presidents can dismiss such matters as partisan fiction, trust in both the justice system and democratic institutions erodes. For Trump's opponents, this battle is about proving that the rule of law applies to everyone, even those at the pinnacle of power. For his supporters, it is about resisting what they see as endless political witch hunts. Second, the Alien Enemies Act and migrant rights. Another major flashpoint is immigration. A federal court this week blocked the administration's attempt to use the Alien Enemies Act, a law dating back to 1798, as grounds for mass deportations of Venezuelan migrants. The court ruled that the act cannot be stretched to cover today's asylum seekers, setting a precedent that could shape immigration law for years. For the White House, this ruling is a setback in its broader effort to assert near-total authority over border policy. For migrants and human rights advocates, it is a rare victory in a season of tough crackdowns. The deeper question is constitutional. How far can executive power extend when it comes to non-citizens? And how should the courts interpret centuries-old laws in a modern context of global migration, economic displacement, and humanitarian crisis? Third, what about the tariffs and the Supreme Court showdown? Trade policy is also entering the courtroom. President Trump has appealed to the Supreme Court to defend his tariff strategy, which critics argue amounts to unilateral economic warfare. His administration has threatened to unwind existing trade agreements if the court does not rule in its favor. At stake is more than the legality of tariffs. This case raises fundamental questions about the president's power to set trade policy without congressional approval. For decades, Congress has delegated trade authority to the executive branch. Now, as global markets tremble and U.S. companies demand clarity, the court must decide whether the White House has gone too far. A ruling against Trump could reassert congressional oversight. A ruling in his favor could cement an era of executive-driven trade wars. Fourth, what is the battle over the National Guard in D.C? Meanwhile, in the nation's capital, the District of Columbia Attorney General has filed suit against the administration for deploying National Guard troops without local consent. The lawsuit argues that such deployments violate constitutional principles and undermine local self-governance. This is more than a legal technicality. D.C. has long lacked the full autonomy of a state, and the ability of the president to use military forces within the city has always been contested. By challenging Trump in court, the district is forcing the nation to confront an old question with new urgency. Should Washington, D.C., home to over 700,000 Americans, remain under federal control, or should it enjoy the same powers of self-defense and representation as the 50 states? Finally, fifth, diplomacy, law, and executive authority. Even Trump's reaffirmation of support for Poland, though outwardly diplomatic, carries domestic legal and political undertones. Foreign commitments often shape military budgets, arms sales, and national security policy, areas where the boundaries of presidential power remain hotly contested. Every handshake on the global stage has a ripple effect in Congress, the courts, and the public debate over how much authority one individual should wield in directing U.S. foreign policy. So what is the common thread here? Is executive power on trial? What links all these disputes is a single underlying theme: the reach of executive authority. Whether it is immigration, trade, military deployment, or personal accountability and scandals, the question is the same: how much unchecked power should a president have? Supporters argue that in a volatile world, strong executive action is necessary to protect national interests. Critics warn that such power, if left unchecked, threatens democracy itself. The courts are increasingly being asked to draw the line, and each case sets a precedent that will shape the balance of power for decades. Are these America's defining legal battles? Taken together, these disputes illustrate a nation grappling with its own identity. Is America a country where the president's word is law, or one where the courts and Congress still hold the final say? Are laws written centuries ago still adequate to govern modern challenges? And can democratic institutions withstand the pressure of polarized politics, sensational scandals, and executive overreach? For now, the answers remain contested. But one thing is clear: the United States is living through a moment where the very boundaries of power are being redrawn in real time. The outcome of these battles will determine not just today's policies, but the shape of American democracy in the years to come. Subscribe, share, and like for more news analysis.